Hustle culture glorifies the grind. It makes us believe that if you're not working 30 hours a day, 8 days a week, shame on you, you lazy bum. But even as someone who enjoys working, I think there's a huge problem with the idea that we need to maximize every second of every day. We've been conditioned to believe that doing more equals better. There's a big difference between being busy and being productive. Vilfredo Pareto, yes, that's his real name, came up with the idea called the 80-20 rule, where 80% of our results come from 20% of our efforts. Although originally to describe economics, it's been widely adopted into so many other areas. The point I'm trying to make is that the majority of the stuff we pride ourselves on to keep busy doesn't matter. It's our way of productively procrastinating from the 20% of the work that actually moves us towards our goals. So here are 3 tips to make sure we aren't productively procrastinating and we're focusing on the things that actually matter. First is to choose a daily highlight. This idea comes from Jake Knapp in his book, Make Time. When we settle into routines, especially if we're in school or work a 9 to 5, days and weeks blur together. And it's easy to lose sense of our purpose, our why, and then burn out. So to keep us grounded, Knapp suggests incorporating a daily highlight. Pick one thing every day that gives us something called a peak moment, because our memory is formed by peak moments. When I think back to medical school, I don't think of the hundreds of hours I spent studying in the library. I remember the interesting cases I saw, the patients that got better. I remember the get-togethers with my friends after an exam, and the first campus tour I gave to incoming medical students. I remember the highlight reel. So when deciding on how to spend your day, ask yourself, what one thing would give me a peak moment today? Maybe that's grabbing dinner with a friend, making it to the gym, or working on your side hustle. Another way to think about this question would be, if you could only do one thing today, what would that be? Maybe that's studying for the MCAT, or sending applications for internships this coming summer, or filming a YouTube video. Our daily highlights should also be an activity that takes a minimum of 60 minutes. Keep it simple. Pick just one daily highlight and no more than 3. We want to avoid long, rigid to-do lists, which leads us nicely into tip number 2. Plan for the unexpected. When we busy ourselves with a million to-dos, falling behind can feel very overwhelming. But the truth is, there are also a million things that are completely out of our control that might prevent us from finishing our work. Sometimes you can't move forward on a project until you hear back from your team. That accident on the freeway was not part of the plan, or the rogue peanut that made its way into your smoothie and now you're in the emergency department. So it's also very important that as we pencil in the daily highlights into our calendar, we keep it flexible. A lot of people support time blocking every hour of every minute of our day. If that works for you, go for it. But for myself, I found it much more effective and less stressful to make just a rough plan only for the daily highlights. Like sometime in the morning, I'm gonna do highlight number 1. And then before 8 p.m., I need to finish being busy or doing whatever else I'm doing so I can make time for highlight number 2. And that's it. A simple plan that I can actually stick to is so much more useful to me than a really complex plan that's rigid and unforgiving. So flexibility is key for when things don't go according to plan. And trust me, they won't. We're not gonna feel completely screwed. Tip number 3 is visualization. Jason Selk, author of Organize Tomorrow Today, talked in his book about the importance of planning our day the night before. It's a practice he calls the mental workout, where after deciding on our daily highlights and creating a rough schedule, the final step before going to bed is positive visualization. And no, this isn't some woo-woo, hippie, trippy practice, calling the universe to manifest your destiny kind of thing. Visualization has ties to our neurobiology. Let's say you have an oral presentation tomorrow, right? And as you're waiting for your turn, you're running through in your mind how the presentation is going to go. By just visualizing yourself up there, your body already begins to respond, right? Your heart rate increases, maybe your hands and your feet get clammy, breathing changes. When we vividly imagine our future actions, our brain activates the same neural pathways and releases the same chemicals as if we were actually doing it. Maxwell Maltz famously said that the nervous system cannot tell the difference between an imagined experience and a real experience. This, of course, is an oversimplification of how the brain works, but positive visualization of the actions and the motions towards our goals increases the likelihood of following through. It gives us confidence and we can leverage it to increase our chances of success. So before going to bed, close your eyes and visualize each action you'll take to complete your daily highlights. Visualize yourself setting down your coffee, entering focus mode, pulling out a blank canvas, and drawing mind maps. Visualize how that stylus will feel in your hand and the light bulb moments you'll have as you begin to learn. Prep your nervous system so that tomorrow will feel like deja vu. You'll have confidence that you can actually do the work. I found that taking this approach to personal productivity, of actively trying to do less each day, has paradoxically allowed me to produce and accomplish accomplish more. For one, I have a much clearer idea of what's important to me, my daily highlights. My mental health is better because I don't feel chronically behind with a million things to do, and I fall asleep on a positive note knowing that I'm prepared for the next day thanks to visualization. And this is why I don't completely jive with the hustle culture craze that doing more is always better. Because when I've tried to do everything, it just ends up being a rat race to burnout. So choose how you spend your time wisely.